Services at PwC India. Great to have you with us. And Akshay D'Souza is also joining us. Great to have you both with us tonight, gentlemen. I was going through the recent findings of the India Consumer Sentiment Index. For one, the findings show that consumer spends on non-essential and discretionary products like air conditioners, like cars and refrigerators, that continues to remain the same as last month for 88% of the families who were surveyed. I was also reading a Nielsen IQ report which speaks about the FMCG market having grown almost 11% in the June quarter compared to the 6% growth that we've seen in the March quarter. So one question is, will growth remain steady as we head into the festive season on the back of what is probably an okayish monsoon? And secondly, since FMCG goods sales are doing well, both on volumes as well as prices, this across hypermarkets and kirana stores, across essential and non-essential items, would it be fair to say that India is bucking the inflationary trend, that consumption is staying resilient despite the higher prices across the board? Let me take this across to you first, Ranen.
Yeah, thanks, Vikram. See, the issue is that when we are talking about this urban consumption and the consumption of the items that you first mentioned about cars, air conditioners, refrigerators, etc. Now, these are being consumed by well-paid executives in companies. And as we know that the company's performances have been good and the bonuses and salaries have been good. So from the organized consumers, consumers from the organized space, the organized employment space, there has been no dent in income. Actually, the income levels have gone up in that segment. So it is not very surprising that the demand for these goods in urban areas is continuing to be strong. Even the great resignation and then the pressures that came on the companies, that led to a significant wage increases in the services sector and in urban areas. And therefore, it is not very surprising that the demand is holding up even though there is inflation. The third aspect is that the services, the contact-intensive service sector, that was literally absent till about March or February, we can say. And after that, it has come on stream. Now that, of course, has given or brought back incomes to many households that were there in the contact-intensive sectors in the urban areas. So one is that the households were not able to spend the money in these contact-intensive sectors. So they are now spending because they are opened up. And that has led to more income going to these households who are actually getting earnings from these contact-intensive sectors. So These are the multiple factors which have actually held the demand at the current levels. And the survey also accordingly is reflecting those numbers.
Certainly. Akshay D'Souza, as per the recent findings of this India Consumer Sentiment Index, about 73% of the total number of people who were surveyed, they're saying that they have started making more health-conscious choices as an effect of the COVID-19 pandemic. How do you see that reflected in the way urban consumers are spending today on goods and services?
So thanks for having me, Vikram. So firstly, I think what we saw since January, there were products in FMCG that were also very hyperinflationary, right? Especially your commodities exhibited a lot of inflation. So as a result of that, up until June, we saw a lot of consumers actually downgrading significantly from their usual purchase patterns. What we're now seeing, in early July, what we kind of started seeing is some of these categories, where the prices started dropping, especially say edible oils, for example, there's been a significant drop. We see in the consumption moving back to high value packs. At the same time, you see the discretionary products, which are mainly affected, right? You see your personal care, your packaged foods, all of those, we're seeing an uptick in consumption for those immediately. Now, one of the key reasons, especially in urban, for that, is that you now have everybody back out of home. So you have schools that are functional, you have colleges that are functional, offices are coming back, residential commercial property sales are at an all-time high, a 9-year high from a commercial property standpoint. which all point to a strong, comeback of economic activity in urban, which is obviously driving consumption. Now, what we possibly expect finally in July, and I think this will come out, this report will kind of come out in the next week or so, is that we should see, consumption which was in the red up until June might just turn slightly black now. So I think that's what we're looking towards and what we probably are heading towards coming forward.
Fair enough. Of course, as far as the government is concerned, and this to you, Ranen, the government has pitched for an Atmanirbhar Bharat. Do the consumption patterns that we're seeing now reflect a preference for Indian brands in general? Have the number of such brands actually grown in recent times? Because only yesterday we were talking about, on this show itself, about an uptick in SUV sales in the automotive market. Tata and Mahindra leading from the front on that count. It really begs the question that overall, which are the industries and sectors where you see that Indian brand-centric growth actually happen in our entire consumption universe?
See, I think this is, I would say that the Atmanirbharta and Atmanirbhar Bharat, and these are good measures that the government has kind of implemented or is implementing, continuing to implement through the PLI scheme, essentially to get more value addition into India and getting more manufacturing into India. But it is a bit, I would say, not that linked with brand decision of consumers, because the brand decision and the consumption, and if we are alluding people avoiding certain international brands, I don't think that is the key question. The key question is the product right? Is it fitting into the consumer segment? Are the features that you mentioned about SUV sales of Mahindra and Tata's doing very well? Now, if the product is good, if the features are good, and it is coming at an affordable price, then obviously they become the brand of choice. I don't think that we have still moved to be able to make an impact on brand choices of made in India products being consumed. And we should also remember that the slogan of Atmanirbharta is not made in India, but make in India. So yes, you may have international brands which will come into India and they'll be produced into India. So brand
fair enough.
Decision.
We seem to have a little bit of an audio issue because we seem to be losing you momentarily through the conversation with you, and we'll try and correct that. But as far as you're concerned, Akshay, even when we are looking at the consumption pattern, that trend that we're talking about, Atmanirbharta, it doesn't seem to have hit the sale of luxury goods and services. The majority of players are foreign brands in that space, and growth seems to be intact over there. Is there a divergence on luxury consumption trends from the Atmanirbhar theme, according to you?
Yeah, definitely. I think inflation at the bare basic has affected the common man more than it's affected the real well-to-do to that extent. I think it's the common man who's kind of made compromises far more than people who are well off. And I think luxury goods, because they're also not very large market, so to speak, in India yet, compared to developed countries, for example, you will see a disproportionate high pace of growth in that space. And I think that is going to continue, maybe for more than a couple of years actually going forward. And I think that trend will kind of pan out very, very quickly, irrespective of inflation.
What comes as a bit of a surprise, Akshay, is that people are still quite hesitant about using digital payments and doing online transactions for their purchases. That's coming out in this survey as well. A majority of respondents in that Consumer Sentiment Index survey, roughly 61% of the ones who were surveyed are saying that they haven't done a digital payment. Why do you think that's really the case? And do you think that would mar prospects of higher growth in consumption, the hesitation among people to jump on the digital payments platforms?
So I think the way you have to kind of look at India is the digital payment story in India probably is among the best in the world at the moment. When you actually look at how well UPI actually has performed in the country. Now, with on the back of UPI, you now obviously have a very, very strong base to build, and a lot of companies who've kind of taken charge in trying to build adoption, especially for that payment method. I think what's to be kind of read into that number really is the other 40% who actually adopted and have made a UPI, a digital payment, so to speak. I think that's a very, very strong base to build from a country of India's size and breadth. And as this whole digital payment philosophy gets down to every last kirana, I think at Bizome what we clearly think is.
And Ranen, coming to you, do you think this is also spurring more offline marketplaces coming up? I believe there are 31 new malls that are going to open within a span of 2 years across tier 1, 2 and tier 3 cities in India. You can put it down to a revival in the retail sector, and you spoke about that. But is there more to it? Because real estate costs a lot more than it used to. And this may just make consumption more expensive for the retail consumer, don't you think?
Yeah, so see, the consumers have been kind of in their homes and were kind of forced to an extent to go on online purchase, and they have experienced it. So, but if they have to make larger purchases and also an experience of going out, that is always there. So post-COVID, people will be going out, and the expectation possibly is that people will like to go out more and buy by looking at the product. And though I'm not saying that online will go away or will reduce, because the totals itself will go up, but there is an expectation that both offline and online will go up. So that's the reason, because people would like to experience also. And when you are buying luxury products and high-end products and high-end from the perspective of a particular household, from the frame of
we are having this technical issue in our connection with you tonight, Ranen. But yes, we do get the larger picture in terms of what is likely to happen on the consumption front. We are seeing it grow, and it is staying resilient as of now, at least urban consumption. It seems like rural consumption is also following closely. But we'll see exactly what the next half of the year, or a little less than that now, is going to bring to the table as far as our inflation worries are concerned, and how consumption remains strong despite the rise in prices. Thanks very much, Akshay and Ranen, for joining us with your perspective on this tonight.